welcome to the Goffstown School Board meeting. I call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Let's stand and say the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So we do have public comment. Is there anybody here? No? Okay. So I'm going to close public comment. So we're here tonight to interview prospective board member. We do have 5 people that applied, so thank you very much for the 5 that have applied. In the past, we bring one up. I have questions that I'll ask. If any of you have questions, just raise your hand and we can ask. And then we'll go through one by one. Was there anything else, any questions or comments before we get started? No? All right. So the first one is Jason Cody.
Okay, I'll go get Jason. Go right down there.
Hi, Jason.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Not too
Welcome.
bad.
So we're just going to ask a couple of questions,
Yep.
and then feel free to, if you have any questions for us as well.
Absolutely.
All right, so first one is, why are you interested in serving on the school board?
Well, in Manchester, I run Manchester Public TV and WMNH Radio, and over the 27 years, I've covered many Board of Mayor and Alder meetings, school board meetings, and so on. I've seen how things go. I've seen a lot of different things, and my son just graduated last year, which actually has given me a little bit more time, which is the most, it's the hardest thing to get hold of is time. My daughter is still a sophomore here, and I thought it would be a good time to give back. I think the opportunity of actually the small window is a great opportunity for anybody who's thinking about doing something like this or contributing, because you can get a small sample of exactly what you need to put into being a school board member. Like when somebody runs for school board, you never understand exactly how much time you have to put into it, the amount of paperwork, the amount of hours you put into it. I know you do. It's tremendous. So the thought process is that I do want to give back. Right now, I'm on the lacrosse committee. I'm the secretary on that one, working hard to clean that up a little bit. And I think me experiencing it and helping out as well, that's just really my biggest thing, is trying to experience and figure out if I want to do it long-term, which I don't know yet, I'll be honest with you. I couldn't tell you if I want to. In 5 months, I might turn around and say, wow, you guys are crazy. This is way too much work. I don't know if I can do this. Or I might turn around and say, oh my God, this is awesome, and hopefully, I'll run, and hopefully I'd win or not, or whatever it is. But that's a big thing of what I want to do. But also, I was watching your budget meeting on Thursday you guys had. And I was watching all the different things you were going through. Scott, who's not here, but Scott Gross is the star of the show on that meeting. He speaks a lot, but it was one of those things where you guys are going over line item after line item, and you were also, asking a lot of questions about specific, why did this go up $3,000-$4,000? Every person in the community should have an idea of what goes on in their schools, because everybody complains, oh, why don't they do this, why don't they do that? If you don't understand exactly how the soup is made or how the food is cooked, then you shouldn't have any way to complain. And then also, when the superintendent's talking about more IT people, when they have to understand the default budget to the actual budget. If they don't understand what that means, what are you complaining about? Then why don't you go out there and actually run it yourself and join a board to figure it out? When I did the Goffstown cable board, I was the chair on that board for about 4 years, and that's a lot less work than this one, but it was, I worked to get the franchise fee directed towards GTV, because of the fact that every year they had to go in front of the selectmen, and they had to, not beg, but they had to be like, okay, this is what we need. And some years it was 100, some years it was 120, and you could never accomplish what you needed to do unless you had ample amount of money. And for the school district, and I'm following back to what you said about the IT department, adding more employees to the IT department, you guys for me to watch it for like 5 minutes and understand exactly what he was requesting, and you guys have to make the decision about what kind of, you help guide the decisions that are made. I personally think an IT position is crucial in any school district. It saves you money in the long run. Running a nonprofit as I do, I know exactly how expensive IT work when you have to call somebody and say, hey, you got to come in, I'm having a problem, cost me, $1,000 compared to, hey, we got a problem, the person goes from their office to the other office, fixes it in 25 minutes, and you're good to go. So I see the specifics, and I'm covering thousands of meetings, and I'm not joking, thousands of meetings of my life. I see what the minutia of board meetings are, and I actually just want to help and try to, add to that and see if some of my ideas or thoughts will help guide. That's all.
Thank you. And you kind of already answered this, but why do you think you would be a good fit for the school board?
Kind of did, but I want to make sure, but I don't know. You know what? I'm going to answer that with, I don't know if I am. You guys are specific. Every person's an individual. They go through and they do. Everybody has their own life, their own home, and they have their own, I'm not saying political beliefs. That's not what I'm saying. They have their own trajectory of how they feel everything should be. So every single person brings a piece of the pie, to the full pie. I don't know if my pie is going to be right. I don't. I think my slice will add to it. I think my knowledge will definitely add to it as boards, Robert's Rule of Law and everything like that. I would have no issue with decorum and that type of thing, which is always a big thing when it comes to boards.
Yeah.
But overall, I can't even answer if I could give yet because I'm not here yet. You would know in about a month if that was the case. And you know what? Then 4 months later, I'd be out anyway, so it really wouldn't matter. But no, that's the truth. If anybody walked up here and said, "Oh, I'm going to be great. I'm going to be wonderful. I'm going to do so much," they're lying. They're lying to you. It's what I believe I can add to and not to take away from the board.
Thank you. And what skills and experiences would you bring to the board?
Well, I run a $500,000 budget for a not-for-profit. I work with, and I'm just saying this, I work with a lot of individuals throughout the city of Manchester, directors and politicians. I understand in a specific way how, not to say the machine, it's a bad word to use, but I understand how the process works and how someone could turn around and say, okay, why are we spending this kind of money? Well, you have to because this does this, which does this. I think that, I think that doing that perspective is what I could bring to the board of just the understanding of knowledge of how boards work, how school districts work. I worked for the Manchester School District for 12 years. I was in a union. I was part of a union negotiation for 2 of our contracts for the union that I was in. I understand how teachers interact with principals because I was in a school myself for 8 years. I saw it's rough. I feel bad for principals sometimes, and I feel bad for teachers sometimes because of the way every school is almost its own little, kingdom, and the way they have to interact. So, but also as a school board member, and I'm just saying this from my side, school board members shouldn't be involved in directly in schools anyways. You're a policy board, that's my feeling. You help guide the teachers and the principals and the superintendent. You're not anything to do with hands-on, that's not your thing. I've met school board members in Manchester who used to walk into schools and used to talk to the principals and say you should be doing this and that. That should never happen. Those are no-nos. But that's just my opinion.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
What do you think will be the biggest challenge the board will face this year?
Every year it's financial. I think the boards. All right, so inflation is terrible. Costs are incredibly high. Just even watching your Thursday meeting, Scott was talking about numerous things that are going on. That's your number one problem. If you could throw money at every single problem, you could fix it. It's just how much money you have. The issue you have is that you have to be creative. You have to make decisions and tough decisions about, okay, this year we have to do this, but next year maybe we work on IT, or the year after that. The biggest thing about having a board is you guys have to have a plan. You have to have a 5 to 7 to 8 year plan because, you could decide that you don't want to do it next year. All the input and everything that you put into it, you then have left, and somebody else has to fill that spot and start from absolute brand new. So having an overall plan, which I'm sure you guys do, but having an overall plan to push the district forward always tries to help with the restraints of budgets. Because, tell me if I'm wrong, and just watching that meeting, you guys have been hitting default budget for how many years?
It was just this past year.
Just this past year, okay, so, my bad. But it
Prior
was-
to that, it was what, 11 years?
It was a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely always, tax rate, always, it's a balancing act of trying to do the best you can with what you have and trying to figure out what the most important thing is for your district.
Right.
And every district's different, like, so Manchester's transportation and special needs, well, special needs in general is ridiculous in every school district, but that's a big one in there, and then also their buildings. Here, it could be a totally different thing, and, yeah, that's just, but what I do love about Goffstown is, and being here for 20 years, is I love that the city of Goffstown, the rec department works really well with the school district. I think that's great. And I also think that you guys take a pride in your sports and your athletics, which is, I think, is always the heart of a school. I think that the extracurricular always brings in the joy to the kids, gives them something to do after school, it gets them involved. In which my son played lacrosse for 4 years. He loved it. Actually, I think he played with your son for 1 year. It was wonderful for him. He enjoyed it very much, and yeah. But that's just
So you answered this question also a little bit, but do you have sufficient time and energy to positively contribute to the Goffstown School Board?
Absolutely, I do. I have. So I am on the Goffstown lacrosse board, and I want to stay on that board. Like I've already started doing a lot of things on that, so I definitely want to commit, but like I said, you lose one kid off to college, you actually have a lot of time on your hands. I was very surprised. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Got a new dog too. I'm like, you know what? That's even not that much. I was like, wow, this is great.
Not to mention the food bill.
Yeah,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Oh my gosh. But no, I do. I work, so I don't work nights anymore for about 14 years at my job. Once I became the executive director, I sat down on my employees and I said, hey guys, 14 years of nights, and I'm done with that. I'm not doing that anymore. So there will be no conflicts of me missing any meetings at night. But yeah, that's it. So time restraints would not be an issue.
And I know you alluded to this also, but do you plan on running for school board in March?
I don't know.
Okay.
And I'm
Yeah,
not
you
going to
said
lie
that
to you and
before.
say, oh yeah, this is a stepping stone of something. No, it's not. So I have no idea. So
No, I appreciate
I'm just
your
being
honesty.
honest. Yeah, it's one of those things where my biggest thing when I saw the email was I wanted to make sure somebody was doing it. And I'm sure there's 10 people that are doing it, but it's one of the things where I wanted to make sure even for the 5 months that there was somebody there to contribute and to move forward with what you guys needed, and then if somebody else comes in and takes the spot and does whatever they need, so be it. It doesn't matter to me. It's not that thing for me, so that's all.
Nice, I appreciate it. Does anybody else have questions? Go ahead, Retta.
And it's just a follow-up to, whether you would run in March or not. So you filmed a lot of school board meetings, you've watched some of ours, you've filmed lots of board meetings in general. So what would make you want to run again, and what would make you not want to run again? I mean, I know
Yeah.
you don't know yet, but what are the
That's
things?
a great question.
What
So
are those
it's-
things?
And people always say that, oh, that's a great question. No, it's,
It
the
is a good
reason.
question.
Yeah, it's a good question, it's a good question. So what would make me not want to run would be the realistic expectations of what I could give to the board. If I turned around and was here and I wasn't, if I wasn't doing anything, if I wasn't helping you guys in any way, what's the bother? I'd rather do something else, volunteer for another board, or I've been on numerous nonprofit boards, and a couple of them that I was on I wasn't contributing enough that I felt, so they should bring in somebody who's better to do the job. So if I can't help you guys, then what's the use of me? I'm not gonna be here just to sit down and say yes and no, it's a waste. What would make me want to is if I came here and I contributed and I enjoyed going to the meetings and I actually enjoyed learning about it and, working with everyone here, then I'd probably run and say, you know what, if I win, that's great and wonderful. If I don't, well, then it's the first time I ran and I'll try again the next time. So that's pretty much it.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Jared.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jason, just a question. Later today, we're going to be talking about filling the position and all of our candidates. You've submitted a lot of information to us. we're going to be talking about you. Would you mind if we talk about that in public, or would you like it to be a
No,
non-public?
you can talk about anything you want. No, you can talk about public, I don't care, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Anyone else have a question for Jason? All right, do you have any questions for us?
No, I've, like I said, I've seen you guys already, I've seen what you guys do, you know, you guys do God's work, I'm being honest with you. People think that you run for, it's a lot of work, I know it is, but, you know, I think it's a wonderful thing, you can't do anything more for your community than do that, and I particularly dislike people who have complaints and they've never actually done it, they have no idea how much work goes into it, so, but no, I don't have any questions individually. So.
All right, if everyone is good, thank you, Jason, very much. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
once we make a decision later tonight, superintendent will be in touch with you tomorrow.
Yep.
Either way, to let you know.
Sounds good, thank you very much.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'll go see if Lauren is here.
Okay, yep, Lauren's next.
Please volunteer.
Sometimes the meetings go till 11.
It's till 11, so.
Jump shot.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Lauren, welcome.
Hello, Madam Chair, thank you. Thanks for having me tonight.
Yes, absolutely. So we're just going to ask you a few questions, and then, of course, if you have any questions for us.
Of course.
All right, so first question is, why are you interested in serving on the school board?
Well, from my cover letter, as many of you know, I ran for a seat on the school board last election. I had served a full term on Goffstown's budget committee. And as I said many times when I was on the budget committee, anytime something having to do with the school budget would come up, I was particularly interested. I also, when I was on the budget committee, volunteered to be the rep to your own subcommittee for facilities planning, and that was a great honor. I really enjoyed learning more about the district, so I was very happy to be on the budget committee. It's a great insight into town and school finance, but really, school's my passion. Plus, I'm a teacher, I've been a paraprofessional, I have 4 children, I have kids in district. I mean, I am like kind of in the meat
Nice.
of all sorts of different Goffstown educational backgrounds.
And why do you think you would be a good fit for the school board?
Well, I think I have a unique set of skills, not to sound like a movie, but this is a particularly hard time to fill a seat for your board. I mean, any time to fill a seat where the voters aren't really weighing in is tough. There's a lot of things that go into being a board member that I'm aware that I don't even know all of it. But you're going into budget season right now, which is a particularly difficult time to place a member. And I think even the board had asked at one of the last meetings of, do we have to fill the seat? Because it's going to be very difficult for someone to hit the ground running. I helped prepare this budget that we're now in the default session for. I understand the budget process. I know what's coming with the deliberative session. I understand a lot of the codes that you're looking at, going through your budget line by line. So I think I'd kind of be an ideal candidate in that regard, just for the upcoming budget season that will get us to March for the election. I also think that I've publicly shown that I will work with anyone. I come prepared to the meetings. Any role that I take, I fully commit to it, even when I volunteer in capacities like when I did the Mountain View principal search. I didn't just show up. I said, hey, I want to be one of the people that goes to other schools, to tour the schools, to see how those principals are operating. Any role I take, I fully commit to it, and I think I've also shown that I'm a good collaborator. I know how to work with people. I know that we're all here to support our students and staff, and that's my end goal as well.
All right, and what skills and experiences would you bring? I mean, you've kind of talked a little bit about it, but to the board.
My previous, again, the budget committee, I'm familiar with deliberative sessions. I'm familiar with going through your budget. I I said a parent of 4, so I have 2 children in Mountain View. I have a child in high school. I'm familiar even with the teachers that are coming to your board to sit as your teacher representatives. I'm familiar with school functions. I know it can be very hard, particularly during budget process, to be interviewing and talking about your budget and then have someone say, what is it you do? I understand what happens in schools. I understand the roles. I understand the importance of having a supportive community and supporting our professionals and really help building, as we've mentioned, that positive community that makes teachers want to stay. I served on a school board before for 5 years. I chaired it for 2. I don't have my cover letter in front of me. But yeah, even just being on that facilities planning was, subcommittee was a huge eye opener for me for the challenges facing us for growth and what's coming down for developments. That really put a whole new perspective on things, so I think I have a lot of that background information.
Thank you. And what do you think will be the biggest challenge the board's going to face this year?
I mean, I understand that this position only gets through March, which, I mean, your budget is your main one. You're running in a default budget. Hasn't happened for 11 years, longer than since I've been a resident. So making a budget that is going to get the job done and be palatable to the voter is going to be a very big challenge. I also, during my candidacy, had met with school administrators and said, what do you see as a big problem? And I've heard it echoed for your senior staff. That might not be a this year, as the technology is not as a this year concern, but these are things that you have to, that you'd have to look at. That's going to be a very difficult thing to balance with not having a very large budget and trying to get the voters to say, hey, we got stuff that we have to do, and we have to do it.
And do you have sufficient time and energy to positively contribute to the Goffstown School Board?
I do. Something that I had done since the previous election was I had transferred or transitioned from a paraprofessional to a full-time teacher. So I have my own class of mixed age 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. So I budget my life on 15-minute blocks. So I think I'm pretty good at juggling lots of roles. I have not made a lot of budget committee and school board meetings as a member of the community, but I have listened a lot. I have made a few, and I mean I'm familiar with the schedule going forward, so I'm available.
Perfect, thank you. And do you plan to run for the school board in March?
That would be my intention, to run for the 1-year seat after this, for sure.
Perfect, thank you, Lauren. Any questions from board members? Go ahead, Jared.
Mr. Chair. Lauren, great to see you again. We're going to be breaking later on and talking about filling the position. You've submitted a lot of information. Normally, that would be a non-public session where we do the discussion. Would you be okay if we talk about the information you've submitted and told us and talk about it in public?
Yes, with the exception of I can't get into like the principal, the Mountain View Principal Search Committee. That's something that I can say that I was part of, but I can't discuss anything.
Let me rephrase.
Sorry.
The board would get together.
The board
Yeah,
gets together.
and we might be talking about you. Would you be okay with that if we talked about it in
Yes, sir,
public?
certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Anyone else? Questions, comments for Lauren? All right, seeing none, do you have any questions for us?
I might have missed this part. Did the school board get that information on October 16th, the guaranteed rate for insurance? Was that something that came out that I missed? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we talked about that the last meeting.
Yeah,
All right, I
it was,
must not have gotten that far enough into it.
It was about a $525,000 reduction. So, good news.
That is good
Yeah.
news. Yeah, I hadn't gone through all the
Yeah,
entire.
we were pleased.
That's fantastic. That's good news.
All right, so if you don't have any other questions, no one else, then we'll say goodbye. And thank you for coming. Superintendent Bulkey will be in contact with you tomorrow to let you know our decision either way.
Excellent.
All
Thank
right,
you very much.
it was good
Thanks for
seeing you,
having me.
Lauren. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the schedule that we made appears to not quite be working. I'm going to go see if I can make some phone calls and get folks
Is-
earlier.
Is
You know what I'm
Lindsay
kind of
here?
not comfortable with? People at home can be listening to the other people being interviewed.
Yeah,
That's
Not
public.
really fair.
yeah, there's kind of no way around that, really.
Yeah, 'cause it's
I
public.
I understand that, but
So we don't have anybody out there that we know of?
I'll double check, but I'll plan on making a few quick calls and see if I can expedite the time frame.
Go ahead, Jared.
I'm not going to say,
I
who.
told you so.
So we'll give handicaps to the first few.
can take a recess.
Yeah, because I don't think it's, I don't think it's fair.
If I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
We have
Dan.
other
Listening.
business on the
Yeah, we
agenda
do. We
could
can,
possibly
yep,
get to.
we do. So while we're waiting for the next candidate, Mrs. Moran got through 2 sets of minutes and sent
way
to us. So we have October 7th and October 8th. Did everybody have a chance to read them? If so, are
And if we
able-
didn't, we could do it right now.
we could do it right now?
I
Or
happen to have a few homes to have gone through. so.
November 4th would be our next meeting
Right.
that we can put it, but we have 2 more dates that'll be coming that day. So, did anybody want to make, if we're good to move these along, or do we want to wait?
I know I read them. I don't know if you had a chance to. Because
I know all the names are spelled right, so that's half the battle right there.
Because I will make a motion if everyone's read them and everyone's ready to.
One at a time, please.
Yeah, I went through everything, I didn't see anything.
A motion to approve the Monday joint meeting on October 7th between the Goffstown School Board and the Budget Committee as presented.
Perfect.
I will second that.
We have a second by Shane. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, we're unanimous. And now the 8th.
I'll make a motion to approve the joint meeting minutes between the school board and the budget committee of October 8th, 2024, as presented.
Thank you, Shane. Do I have a second? By Ginny. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Dan.
Dan had an excused absence. Oh, yeah, on Tuesday?
Was that the 8th? Yes, he
Yes.
did.
As did Jared.
Oh, that's right, you weren't here either.
Oh, you guys. throw me off.
That's right. Okay. All right, you get that?
Yep.
All right, so Shane, do you want to amend your,
I would like to amend my motion to approve the October 8th joint meeting minutes between the school board and the budget committee with the amendments that were discussed with Dan and Jared.
perfect.
Excuse absences.
Ginny, do you second?
Second, yes.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
Abstaining.
1
Abstaining.
abstention, 2 abstentions. Did you get that? All right, perfect. Okay.
Just out of giggles, how much time was allotted for each candidate?
20 minutes
Oh,
with
okay.
5 minutes in between.
Okay. Understand. Thank you.
So the next one is at
Could you
6:50.
talk a little slower, please?
slower.
Yeah.
When you hit the little pause between the questions.
Yeah.
Words in the question.
Well, I think this is the first time we actually set up times, so we were saying that before,
Well,
that we usually just had everybody
They usually
come.
they
the
just-
thing is, questions 1, 2, and 3 are kind of redundant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So if you've answered 1 and 2, you've answered
we
3,
kind of answered all of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we can either smile at the camera or we can recess.
Yeah,
What would you like to do?
maybe we should go into recess. I don't know what Brian's doing.
Making phone calls.
Do we have non-public?
We do. All right, so we'll go into recess, GTV, for a few minutes. So we're back from our recess. Hi, Lindsay, welcome.
Hi, how are you? Hello, everybody of my
Good.
friends at home who didn't
That's
know
all
I
right.
would applied for this.
Yes, no, don't think about it. So we're just going to ask you a few questions, and then if you have any questions, you can definitely ask us.
Okay.
So we want to know why you're interested in serving on the school board.
Well, I have an interesting background, a mix of politics, public administration, and about 18 years in public education. And during that time, I've worked for municipalities, I've worked for state organizations, charter schools, public schools, semi-public schools. So I think during that journey, I've had the opportunity to get an idea of all the different solutions these schools, school districts, programs have used to solve problems. And I think this experience would lend itself well to Goffstown because I would come in with a wide range of experience in education, which could be useful for the board.
And why would you think you're a good fit for the school board? Basically, you answered that question.
Well, beyond that, I've worked with very diverse personalities and individuals, and I think I work very well with a wide range of personalities, and I'm very much a problem solver. Like, when there's a problem, I like to try to find a solution that works for everybody and works for the better of the community as a whole.
Thank you. And what skills and experiences do you bring to the board? Basically, you kind of went through a lot of the stuff that you've done and
Yeah.
worked and stuff. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, I just think that diverse set of experience really does help, because sometimes you come from the outside and you look at a problem and you say, oh, I saw something like this work well at this school. Maybe something similar could work here.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't.
Great. And what do you think would be the biggest challenge the board's going to face this year?
Oh, goodness. The first thing I think is always is funding. Like, how are you going to fund the programs? And I think coming up with a solution that it works for everybody. Not everyone's going to be happy about it. It's just the reality of the situation. I think the most important thing is finding a solution to fund our schools and to come up with a solution that gets as much input as we can that solves problems for the future.
And do you have sufficient time and energy to positively give to the school board?
Yes.
I'm sure you know how many meetings we have and all kinds
Yeah,
of
I'm
stuff.
a mama too.
Okay.
My day has 36 hours. It doesn't have 24.
And do you plan to run for school board in March?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know. Give me a
Appreciate
few
that.
meetings, give me a few months, and then I'd probably be able to tell you.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody have questions for Lindsay? Jared?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lindsay, you've submitted a lot of information to us. You've told us your answers. Later tonight, we're, as a board, going to get together and fill the seat. As part of that, we're going to be talking about you. My question specifically to you is, do you mind if we talk about that in public, or would you prefer it to be a non-public?
I don't know, honestly.
Would it be okay if we discussed you in
Yes,
public?
it would be. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Anyone else, questions or comments? Yeah, go
Yeah, I
ahead,
have
Retta.
a question. So, you answered the question very quickly about having sufficient time, and I just wanted to know if you are aware of how often we meet.
How often is it? Weekly? I thought it was.
Usually, it's 2 times a month for
Oh, okay.
this board, and then we have the SAU board, which is
3
every
times a year.
3
Yeah.
times a year. And then there's the subcommittees.
Okay.
That could be, they're usually not on the same week as
Okay.
the regular board meetings, but there's some.
Yes.
Especially during budget.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That's going to be a very busy time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyone else? Questions, comments for Lindsay? Do you have anything for us?
No, I really don't.
All right.
Your
Awesome.
your kiddos are in Goffstown schools now?
Yes, they are. I have 2 daughters. They are at Mountain View Middle School right now.
Okay.
And they've both gone through Maple Ave as well.
Nice. All right. All right, well, thank you. Appreciate you coming earlier than anticipated.
Thanks for being flexible. Being
Thank
flexible
you.
is a great attribute for school.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. And Superintendent Bulky will be in touch with you tomorrow either way to let you know our decision.
All right, perfect.
So thank you
All right,
for coming.
thank
Nice to meet
you.
you.
All right, thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, do we know if anyone else?
Yep, she's here.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
How's that work?
Make yourself comfortable right over there with the mic.
Hi, Lindsay, welcome. Yes, thank you for being flexible. All right, so I'm going to ask you a few questions, and of course, at the end, if you have any questions for us, let us know. So the first three questions kind of go together. Basically, want to know what your interest in serving on the board is, what you feel you can bring to the board, and why you would be a good fit.
Okay. So I have been here for most of the meetings for the past year. I've had a chance to kind of see what the board does, the decisions it makes. And I think for me, being able to be a part of the decisions to help with the education of our kids in Goffstown, I have a vested interest as a parent in making sure that our schools stay strong, and as a teacher, I feel like I bring a lot of that elementary knowledge to the board that would be able to have just a different perspective. I think for any board, any group of people working in a community, it's important to have different perspectives and different opinions and have some balance in the people's backgrounds and where they are in life. It just brings different perspectives. And when we all have like the same goal in mind and the same priority, having those different perspectives, I feel like makes the board better able to make good decisions for everybody. So I think for me, having that experience and having the background in education that I do, I think that would be beneficial for my knowledge and curriculum and things to be able to help make good decisions for our school.
Thank you. And what do you think the biggest challenge the board will face this year?
Biggest challenge probably for the board this year right now would be budget. Making sure our schools have the funding that they need to be productive and do what they need to do every day. I think the additional challenges of having the new neighborhoods that we don't know about, it's those unknowns that are a little bit challenging, being able to be flexible in making decisions based on what new changes are happening, spacing-wise at the schools, busing for new neighborhoods and new developments like that. That will be a challenge. And I think the challenge of full-day kindergarten, while it's not a this year sort of fix, it's certainly a challenge that is coming down the road, being that we are one of the last to have full-day kindergarten. That is a big challenge, I think, that's coming, that's needs to be addressed by the board, the community, shortly.
And do you have sufficient time and energy to positively contribute to the Goffstown School Boards? I know you've been to a lot of them, so you have an idea of how often we meet, how long they go.
Yeah, I do. There's a reason I've waited until this point in my life to be able to run. My kids are a little bit older, a little more self-sufficient, teenage girls who don't need me quite as much. So I have the flexibility of being able to spend more time being here at night. And I also spend some time looking over the things that are posted that I can't always see sitting back in the audience, that the documents and things like that. So being able to see all of those things before meetings, I feel like I've been looking at them after. I'm still putting in some of that time now, just because sometimes sitting back there, it's hard to, talking budgets, it's hard to kind of see what you're looking at when I don't have it in front of me. So I feel like I do have the time now, and this is a time in my life where I do have the flexibility of being able to look more closely at those things that you see before meetings, as well as being here during meetings.
Awesome. And would you plan to run for the school board in March?
Yep, ran last March, and I'll do it again.
Great, awesome. Any questions from board members? Go ahead, Jared.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lindsay, later tonight, we're going to be talking about filling the position with all the candidates. You've submitted a lot of information. You've told us your answers. I guess the question I have is, would you mind if we talk about your information in public if we made that decision?
Yeah, as a public official like this, being able to serve in the community, while it's uncomfortable to know that those discussions are happening, I think it's actually important that they do happen publicly, because it allows the community to be aware of decisions and how they were made.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Lindsay. Any other questions or comments for Lindsay? Okay. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't think so.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
And Superintendent Bulke will be in contact with you tomorrow with either, with any decision that we make.
Okay, thank you so much
All
for your
right.
time, everybody.
Have a good
Thanks
night.
for being flexible.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So actually, what we could do, I did leave a message for Conrad, but was not able to speak to him. I did have a
He's not here
non-public
yet?
matter to discuss with the board this evening that has nothing to do with the filling of the vacant seat.
Okay.
So it might be a chance for us. He's scheduled to be here in about 25 minutes or so.
Okay.
If the board would be amenable, we could go into non-public. We could go down to the main office conference room.
Like we always do?
Like we always do.
Okay.
Let me go make sure that they don't have any of the testing materials
Testing.
set up there.
Okay.
And that would allow us to do that now, if the board is okay with that.
That makes sense.
That's under
Think so.
C, right?
And if that doesn't.
No, this would be under I.
Okay.
We'll do
Oh,
the
I.
section under I.
Oh, okay.
Brady, this will be something not for you, so I apologize if you just want to hang out. Our next school board candidate should be here in about 20 minutes or so, but I would also understand if you wanted to
Yeah, you
head
can go
home,
home.
please feel free as well.
Or you can represent the board if they get here early and do a song and dance.
Don't, be careful what you ask
Just
for.
saying.
You could do a very good
I know
song
he
and
could.
dance.
He really would.
I think I'll stay here because I need to talk to you.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so is everybody good to go into non-public for a few minutes?
Yep.
To discuss the safety
This is
item?
regarding safety.
Yep.
Yes.
Motion to go into non-public for RSA 91A3, Roman 2, parenthetical I, to discuss safety.
Thank you, Dan. Do I have a second? Second. By Shane. All right, roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, we're in non-public. Let's All right. Hi, Conrad. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you for being flexible with tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
All
Happy to be
right.
here.
So I'm just going to ask you a few questions, and then at the end, if you have any questions for us, you feel free to ask. So why are you interested in running for the school board?
Got a little more free time on my hands, raising two twins, Theo and Hazel. They're now in second grade. So we're out of that kind of baby infant stage. I was really hands-on, kind of started coaching, kind of helping out team sports. And just want to kind of have a little bit more of a hand in what goes on in the school district. Figure this opportunity doesn't come around often. I think it's a little easier to get your foot in the door as opposed to running through the election cycle and everything like that. So I figured this would be a good way to kind of get introduced to what you guys do here and part of the community. And yeah,
Awesome. And why would you think you'd be a good fit for the school board?
I think I'm a very personable person, reasonable, pretty level-headed, what I do for work. So it kind of helps me deal with a lot of different people in the community. So I think I bring a lot to the table where it comes to communicating and kind of negotiating and finding kind of middle ground with everything.
Awesome. And skills and experiences you would bring to the board?
Organization, definitely pretty well organized and detail-oriented. I'm a team player, grew up playing a lot of team sports, so I kind of understand the team dynamic. Again, level-headed, so yeah.
Nice. And what do you think the biggest challenge for the board would be this year?
I think the budget was just introduced, so I think just kind of balancing that and kind of coming to an agreement with that. I'm not sure where the board's at with the budget at this point. Obviously a vacancy, not sure what the circumstances were for that person leaving, but obviously just filling in some gaps and kind of being a part of the team, and I think kind of continuing on in a forward progress.
Awesome. And do you have sufficient time and energy to positively contribute to the Goffstown School Board?
Yeah, I can make myself available first and third Monday of the month and whatever other extra meetings there are, but yeah, I can swing it. I wouldn't be putting in for it if I wasn't able to.
And would you plan to run in March?
Yeah, it'd have to be a very negative experience, but I would, yeah. That's the hope, so
Yeah.
kind of get my feet wet here, and then, yeah, I'd like to continue on.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any board members have questions for Conrad? Jared, go ahead.
Conrad, you've given us some information, you've given us your resume, you've answered some questions for us. As part of the process, we're going to be deliberating as a board about filling this position, and we'll be talking about you. Would you be okay if we talk about you in public, knowing that you've submitted some information, we'd be relying on that for our decision-making process?
Yeah, no, my work experience is in the public sector, so my life is pretty out there. Yeah, anything you want to talk about in public, that's fine. I've been in the public for over a decade, so really have nothing to hide. I keep my family life personal, but I've seen people around town, and we're always friendly, and we really, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jared. Anyone else? Questions or comments for Conrad? All right, do you have any questions for us?
Not really at this time. How long do you think it would take the board to decide? By
We'll
next
make a
meeting?
decision tonight.
Okay.
And
Very good.
Superintendent Bulkey will call you tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I look forward to hearing from you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Great, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much
Thank
for
you.
coming tonight, and thank you for
Thank you,
being
guys.
flexible with the schedule.
Yeah, no
It's been
problem.
a strange meeting.
Yep, no worries at all. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Conrad, take care.
Take care.
Okay. All right, so that concludes the 5 applicants. So before we go into the next, is there any other business that may come before the meeting? All right, seeing none. So the next is going into, making a motion to go into non-public under C.
I'll make the motion.
Oh, did you have a question?
No, statement.
Oh,
before.
go ahead, go ahead.
So, thank you, Ms. Chair.
Yeah.
Just to the board, I wanted to ask the questions that I did to the candidates, because I have a firm belief that this is not an employee position. This is an appointed position to represent policy-making decisions that are normally from the legislative body. We vote on individuals, they come into the board, they talk about, through their campaigning process, who the people are that actually need to be approved, or that they'd vote for. I asked the questions I did to make sure that everybody was okay talking about this in public. I firmly believe that for a transparency standpoint, we should have this conversation in public and not in non-public, for the simple reason is, transparency and people want to know our decision-making process. Why did we choose one person over the other four? And what conversations were had? So if we are choosing to go into non-public, I will be voting no. I think this is a conversation we should be having in front of the televisions, in front of our legislative body, so that they can be comfortable with the decisions we're making and why we're making them. Again, this isn't an employee. This is an appointed political position, and I really think that we should be having these conversations in public.
Thank you, Jared. Did you want to speak to
Yeah, so I appreciate that perspective, and Mr. Talbot and I did speak about this a little bit. I did reach out to Barrett Christina, who is the Executive Director of the New Hampshire School Boards Association. He's also their former attorney, and I asked the question. My assessment was the same as Barrett's, which is you could do exactly what Mr. Talbot is requesting. There's nothing that would be illegal about it, but in general, the board has to be very careful. You have 5 great people who put themselves out there, and I think we have to be very careful as the board deliberates and talks about candidates, that you need to protect people's reputation, and I think depending on what your conversation looks like, Barrett's recommendation is to have the conversation in non-public session. That's historically how we've done this. So I would say we've done this process 3 or 4 times in the last 5 to 8 years. This is how we've always done it. I do appreciate the transparency piece. I would just be, I think the board, you're going to have to be very careful about how you would talk about and discuss candidates if you were to do it in public. So I would caution the board from doing this. I think it's considerably, probably safer to do it in non-public, but there's nothing that would require you to do it in non-public. So Mr. Talbot's inquiry is a fair one.
Go ahead, Dan. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, and I think it's, if we stick to what we heard in the testimony tonight, if we don't plan on bringing other information that's personal, we should be able to do this in public. I agree with the concept. I've been thinking about it for a little bit. It's a tightrope. Is it safer to go into non-public? Absolutely, because we seal the minutes, because we could talk about things that weren't discussed in public today. And should those things be discussed? I don't know. So we'll see what happens in a few months.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Retta.
Yeah, I actually am not in favor of doing this in public, and I understand everything else we try to do in public. I think the candidates that came forward, they presented things, but I think we're going to have to make decisions based on things that were said and not said. And I don't think it's to the benefit of the greater community. I feel really awkward that we be talking about people in public. This is, while it's not, we're not hiring, this is kind of a hiring process. When people vote for the candidate in March, it's not public, that you just vote, whatever your reason is. So I would prefer to do it in non-public.
Thank you, Retta. Anyone else want to make a statement or a question? Go
I
ahead,
agree
Jenny.
with Retta. I would rather do it in non-public. We can not seal the minutes if we want, but I would rather do it in non-public.
Anyone else? So we would need someone to make a motion in a second and then vote on it if that's where we're going to go into non-public.
I'll make the motion to
Ginny?
go into non-public.
Under RSA A32C.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so Ginny made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
By Retta. All right, so I'm going to do roll call. So yes if you want to go into non-public and no if you don't. Okay.
I know with,
Oh.
just one thing I want to say, when Jared asked the one candidate, she didn't really know whether she could say yes or no, you know, because when you ask a person and they're interviewing for something, and you say, do you mind if we talk about you in person, and what are they going to say, no? You know, I think it's kind of an awkward question to ask, and there was one person, I don't remember their name, but they were like, oh, okay, like not really knowing what was usual and customary, and if they should say yes or if they should say no. So I think that person just said yes because, well, yeah, I'm sitting here, so I should agree with what, you know, what you're asking me to do. So I'm not sure whether everybody really felt like they could say exactly how they felt sitting in front of us asking them a question.
All right, thank you, Jenny. All right, so I'm going to do roll call.
Well, for,
Oh, sorry.
if I may,
Sorry,
no
Caroline.
matter
Go
what the
ahead.
vote is, it's a majority vote.
Right.
Right.
And anybody who perhaps would not vote no, they still participate.
Yes.
It's just whatever it
Whether
is.
we
I
go
just wanted-
into non-public
We go
or
into
not.
non-public,
Absolutely,
everybody
yes.
still participates.
Yes, absolutely.
It's Robert Rules.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Jared?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No,
And yes, so
5-3.
5-3, so we'll go into non-public. But appreciate the discussion, absolutely.
We're in non-public.
We're in non-public